First, what is intercultural communication? Intercultural communication refers to the effective communication between people, workers, clients of different cultural backgrounds. It also includes managing thought patterns and nonverbal communication. So kapag ikaw at ang kausap mong banyaga o foreigners ay nagkakaintindihan, dito na lumilitaw ang tinatawag nating intercultural communication. I introduced these 4 approaches to studying intercultural communication para mas maintindihan natin kung paano gagamitin itong mga approaches na to kapag nagde-develop tayo ng mga projects to address global challenges. The 4 approaches to the study of intercultural communication are social science, interpretative, critical, and dialectical. The various approaches to intercultural communication scholarship have their roots in the disciplines that help shape the field. Hindi naman basta nag-develop lang tong mga approaches na to, and may mga basis din sila kung paano nila to na-develop. These bases are anthropology, linguistics, and psychology. The influence of each of these fields can be seen in the way we study communication across cultures today. The field of linguistics helps us understand the relationship between language and other cultural systems. The field of anthropology helps us recognize cultural patterns and realize the importance of nonverbal communication. The field of psychology brings to light the role of human cognition in understanding and categorizing the patterns of behavior of members of other cultures. So, here are the 4 approaches in studying intercultural communication. Number 1. The social science approach. The social science approach is based on the assumptions that human behavior is predictable and that there is a describable external reality. This approach is also called functionalist approach. It's based on research in the fields of sociology and psychology. Naniniwala yung mga researchers dito na yung culture natin is nasusukat at nakaka-impluwensya sa communication natin and also sa characteristic natin as a human being. The goal of the social science approach is to predict how culture influences communication. Number 2. Interpretative approach. Interpretative researchers are interested in describing human behaviors which they believe to be unpredictable and creative. They believe that culture is both created and perpetuated through the means of communication. These methods include field studies, ethnographies, observations, and participant observations. They seek to find and describe patterns in communication and approach research. In a holistic and subjective way, interpretative researchers seek to answer questions related to what it means to be a member of a particular community and how participants in communities achieve membering. Number 3. Critical approach. The critical approach views reality as subjective and focuses on the importance of studying the context in which communication occurs. Critical scholars believe that the goal of intercultural research is to identify and make explicit power differences in order to liberate those individuals who lack power in society. Critical scholars view culture in terms of power struggles and study cultural differences, specifically as they relate to unequal distribution of power within the society. The social science, critical, and interpretative approaches to studying intercultural communication are all valuable. However, these approaches may seem to contradict with one another. In order to address the potential contradictions among these approaches, Martin Nakayama and Flores 2002 have decided to develop the dialectical approach to studying intercultural communication. Dialectical approach acknowledges the value of the social science, critical, and interpretative approaches. At the same time, it requires that we do not limit ourselves to the perspective provided by one of these approaches. The dialectical approach calls for the simultaneous acceptance of all three perspectives. An acceptance of multiple perspectives expands our perception of the world and allows us to create new categories and to see the complex potential of the study of intercultural communication. Here are the 6 dialectics characteristics of intercultural communication according to Martin Nakayama and Flores 2002. Number 1. Cultural individual. This dialectic refers to the fact that communication is both cultural and individual. All people share some communication patterns with members of groups to which they belong. At the same time, all people also have unique individual communication patterns that are idiosyncratic. Number 2. Personal contextual. This dialectic has to do with the relationship between social roles that we play and how they interact with our communication patterns on the personal level. Social contexts often shape the behaviors of individuals. Roles related to our social position and our professional standing may influence our communication behavior. Different similarities. This dialectic recognizes the fact that people are simultaneously both similar to and different from one another in many ways. These similarities and differences exist both within and across cultures. There are real differences between the ways members of various cultures communicate. Example, members of Arab cultures communicate more differently than members of Asian cultures. However, when we focus on differences among cultures, we run the risk of stereotyping others. Number 4. Static dynamic. This dialectic examines the fact that culture and communication patterns are both static and dynamic. Some cultural and communication patterns are relatively stable, while at the same time, cultures are evolving and changing. Number 5. History, past to present, and future. This dialectic refers to the need to be aware of both present conditions and historical influences as they affect intercultural communication. Number 6. Privileges, disadvantage. This dialectic addresses the contradiction that individuals may be simultaneously privileged and disadvantaged. Individuals may have power because of their social, economic, or political status, and be privileged because of their position, just as others may be disadvantaged because of their lack of social, economic, or political power. Let's go to our next topic, which is communication breakdown. Communication is a process of exchanging thoughts, ideas, and opinions in order to connect with other people. Its goal is to achieve a clear and effective understanding, resulting to good relationships in the community. However, there are times when this goal is not reached due to certain factors. When this happens, there is communication breakdown. If we fail to exchange information, resulting in a lack of communication, a communication breakdown takes place. A smooth and successful communication transaction may result if we follow the strategies to avoid communication breakdown. Communication becomes successful if and only if our communication goal is achieved. That is, an understanding is reached and a relationship is built or maintained. Here are some strategies to avoid communication breakdown by Cooper. Number 1. Keep focused. One way of being focused is to put in mind the purpose of communication. As a speaker, identify your purpose for speaking, and as a listener, find the speaker's purpose through his or her verbal and non-verbal cues. Number 2. Speak intelligibly. Speaking intelligibly or clearly means using the appropriate speaking volume, such as speech rate, proper enunciation, stress, and acceptable pronunciation. You speak in order to be understood. Number 3. Listen with your eyes and ears. Pay attention to verbal and non-verbal messages. Effective communication depends on what people say and how they say it. Number 4. Minimize distractions. Look for a place where you can minimize distractions or noise like closed area, empty room, or quiet places. Listening the cause for conclusion means giving more room to focus and concrete. Number 5. Be specific. Use simple and concise words as much as possible in delivering a message. Being specific means being particular and direct to the point. Number 6. Do not jump to conclusions. Before you give your comments and judgment, be sure that you have listened attentively to the speaker. Conclusions should be drawn after a true analysis of point given or information received. Tips on how to avoid communication breakdown by Broom, Gottlieb, and Center 2012 listed the 7 C's of effective communication in their book Effective Public Relations. These are completeness, conciseness, consideration, concreteness, courtesy, clearness, and correctness. Completeness. It is important to whole communication process. The speaker should include everything that the receiver needs to hear, respond, react, or evaluate properly. Conciseness. The message should be direct or straight to the point and should be expressed in the last possible number of words. Consideration. In order to be effective, the speaker should give high regard and courtesy to audience's background information such as his or her culture, location, religion, status, mood, feelings, and needs. Concreteness. Effective communication is backed up by facts, figures, and real-life examples or situations. Courtesy. The speaker can show respect to his or her receivers through understanding their culture, values, and beliefs. Clearness. It implies the use of simple and specific words to express ideas. Correctness. Avoiding mistakes in grammar helps to boost the credibility and effectiveness of the message, and at the same time, it eliminates the negative impact on the audience. Breakdowns in communication may arise because of several factors, but these factors may be avoided if you follow strategies put forward by experts in the field. Communication is a transaction that we do every day. By following the 7 C's of communication espoused by Broom, Gottlieb, and Center 2012, we may achieve understanding in communicating with others and avoid confusion and misinterpretation. Now let's go to nonverbal code differences. Nonverbal communication is communication that occurs without words, which is continuous. It is body language and environmental context involved in any communication. It is not what is said with words, but how it's said and expressed. May I introduce to you the 6 types of nonverbal codes. Number 1. Paralanguage or vocal cues. Para means like, and paralanguage means like language. Words convey their intended meaning through paralanguage. It indicates how a speaker speaks. Example, if thanks said with a sad face and sorry said with a happy face, this means that they do not convey the right meaning. So paralanguage is the voice intonation that accompanies speech, including voice pitch, voice tone, and the rhythm of the speech. Number 2. Proxemics or spacing. This is the study of space and how we use it, and how it makes us feel more or less comfortable, and how we arrange objects and ourselves in relation to space. It is the study of how we communicate with the space and around us. It involves how we arrange personal space and what we arrange in it. Number 3. Appearance or aura or impression. It is a very important factor as what as a person wears conveys a message about their personality. There are clothes that are appropriate for various types of situations. Like for example, during an interview, a well-dressed person will look more presentable than the person who is shabbily dressed. It is usually associated with one's dress sense, hairstyle, basically anything on the physical side. Number 4. Kinesics. This includes the movement, gesture, posture, facial expression, and eyes. Kinesics is an important category of nonverbal communication. Kinesics or body language refers to the subconscious gestures and body movements we make. That is posture, movement, gestures, and facial expressions. The word kinesics comes from the root word kinesis, which means movement, and refers to the study of hand, arm, body, and face movements. Number 5. Haptics or touch. Haptic communication is communicating by touch. Touch or haptics is the characteristic of nonverbal communication and used when we come into physical contact with other people. For example, we use handshakes to gain trust and introduce ourselves. Haptics is derived from the Greek word haptikos, meaning able to come into contact with. It is the study of touching as nonverbal communication. Includes handshakes, holding hands, and backslap. Number 6. Chronemics or time. Chronemics is the study of how human beings communicate through their use of time. We attempt to control time, trying to use it more effectively. Good timing is very crucial, and you should rehearse a formal presentation until it is a little underlined because staying within time limits is a mark of courtesy and professionalism. Time perceptions include punctuality, willingness to wait, and interactions. The use of time can affect lifestyles, daily agendas, speed of speech, movements, and how long people are willing to listen. And now let's go to our next topic, which is strategies for blending into a foreign culture. The better you can adapt to a new culture, the more you can seize your overseas adventure. Here are some strategies for getting along with the natives in your host country and blending into your new home. Number 1. Try to speak the language. Most individuals appreciate when you try to speak their language, even if you do so imperfectly. Number 2. Speak English clearly. Many individuals in the host country speak English, but don't understand slang phrases or jargon. Try to speak slowly and clearly to avoid misunderstanding. Number 3. Eat the native foods. In foreign cultures, food is often a symbol of hospitality. Number 4. Dress appropriately. Clothing is a central part of the customs and traditions of most cultures. Number 5. Learn how to address people. Some cultures are very formal in how they address each other. Be on time. Cultures being tardy shows a lack of respect for the other person and is considered rude. Number 7. Be open-minded. Put your stereotype aside and try to be receptive of new ideas and behaviors. I believe in the saying by Peter Drucker that good communication is just as stimulating as black coffee and just as hard to sleep after. Happy learning, everyone!